Absolutely. Getting Samuel away from Gangstars is a pretty good idea, but it does leave that Adagio open. They've been really big on this Adagio pick, but maybe going for this Finn.
If they do go for the Finn, that means Gangstars is going to potentially allow this Lyra Adagio pickup on MouseSports side. We've talked to Gangstars before. They said they're comfortable going into the double heal comp because they have a specific strategy, specific picks that actually make it so they don't feel like they have to fear it. But it didn't win the last time they let it slide through, so they need to be careful if MouseSports prioritizes this.
Yeah, well, MouseSports also likes to run that Scarf, so we'll see where they put the priority here. Looks like it is going to be that Adagio picked up first by Great Khali. Now Amir King on the clock, and he's been hovering the Arden, but I really feel like with the Lyra being available, like that's just too strong of a composition to pass up.
That's true, but they might think that if they do grab the Arden, that perhaps Lyra won't be picked up since they already have Finn on the side of Gangstars. Lyra lane is something we have yet to see in this tournament. We did see it back in North America. The Catherine coming through, though, so they do go for a roam pick. It's not what we thought, though.
Yeah, not at all, and that's going to really leave a lot open for Gangstars. The Lyra is available if you want to run the carry Lyra. You could go for the Lance. There's so many different options still. Kroll is on the board, Sky is on the board, and Sky's going to be the pick here for Gangstars. So some good mid-game pressure and damage coming out right now, and let's see if they decide to go for the early game or the late game with this last pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a lot's gonna come down to this. We might see probably not a jungle Finn. We only saw that once last weekend. It's probably not gonna come through here, so I imagine Finn will definitely stay in the roam position as Tenno JJ is going to lock in the Lyra. So it does look like it's gonna be that Lyra in lane, most likely a weapon power Sky in jungle, and then we're gonna leave it to MouseSports to counter this.
Yeah, and I actually do really like the carry Lyra still. We haven't been seeing much of it, but it can put out some massive damage that's just really difficult to deal with, even with the Adagio, who is probably best suited to deal with it, because you're going to have both of those laners sustaining quite a bit. But last pick actually going to be the Vox, and I mean, you could flex the Vox down to the jungle, but we've seen the Adagio in the jungle already as well. Lots of options.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options. The Vox is not my favorite pick. It seemed a little bit more like a last-minute decision, but take us away.
All right, well, we're gonna have to see what Action Jackson and Sona have to say.
Thank you very much, Forecourt and friends. I am Sona, and I am joined by Action Jackson on the desk. One of our first times actually casting Vainglory together. I'm very excited to see how this matchup goes, especially with some of the intriguing picks we've had in the pick and ban phase.
Vox is certainly an interesting one for me. I kind of liked going for the Catherine in the first rotation for MouseSports, because even if they do pick Lyra, Catherine is historically quite good into it. But the Vox, I'm a little bit less sure about. I think towards the late game, obviously Vox can ramp up quite hard. Or they could go for weapon power and kind of go for the buff comp with the Adagio, which might work.
It's something we saw a lot a couple of patches ago. Probably about 117, 116 was when we were seeing that sort of Adagio-Vox combination. I don't think Adagio is incredibly strong out of the jungle, especially playing into something like a Finn and a Sky who can put a bit of early aggression down. I much prefer Adagio in lane. I would have preferred to see Mouse pick up a more aggressive jungler here, like a Taka or even a Glaive as well, to try and get that double stun composition off that we see all the time. You know, Glaive Catherine is incredibly strong if you work it correctly.
Yeah, I do feel like it would have been better to maybe even put the Vox in jungle. I mean, Vox jungle is something we used to see fairly frequently for like maybe one patch when it was quite strong, but it obviously has fallen off a great deal. Kali does need to be a little bit careful here as we see the rotation out of Net, Toilette, and Tetno, but he's going to be safe for now. I feel like Acitor is a player who I'd like to see on an Adagio, because I think he'll be quite good on it. Kali.
Yeah, going to take a lot of pain here. Barrage is still available as well for Tetno. He's trying to dodge around, but the Principal Arcanum from Iraqi Zoro will pick up first blood for Gangstars.
Gangstars being very persistent with that gank attempt, and I actually quite like that. You know that early on, Great Khali has a much longer cooldown, for example, on the Sonic Zoom. Can give you some opportunities. Emmerking getting caught out now.
Yeah, he's going to use that Merciless Pursuit to try and get away. Double quibble onto Acitor and Emmerking, and now Emmerking in all kinds of pain. Should be caught out here by 3 members of Gangstars. There's no escape for the Catherine. It will be the second kill of the game, going over towards the Gangstars.
Gangstars are coming out of the gate swinging right now, and considering MouseSports and their incredible performance against Team Secret earlier on, this might not be the expected result in the early game that some people would have expected. I think the thing to note here, though, is that MouseSports historically and at this event have been a very late game focused team. Acitor, he's got to be careful. I don't know about standing your ground here.
He has got that gift of fire. He did use it to heal himself up a little bit, so can try and trade a little bit into the Lyra. The problem always is we don't see a huge amount of lane Lyra. She's incredibly strong when she's getting those auto attacks down. Later game, she falls off quite a lot, though.
One thing that I find very interesting this game already is that TechnoJJ looks like he's going towards a weapon power build.
Yeah.
And traditionally when you see weapon power Sky, for example in North America where we see it a huge amount, it's to deal with things like the Lance or maybe to play into things that are going to be able to deal with the fact that as Crystal, you lock yourself into a trajectory with forward barrage. This game is not like that necessarily though. There's not really anything like that Lance on MouseSports. Emmer King. Me trading away a little bit.
Oh, it takes a quibble to the face as well. Techno trying to get the damage down onto that Catherine. Those double weapon blades doing some pain in the early game here.
Absolutely. Thinking about it a little bit more, I mean, I suppose Great Khali with Sonic Zoom could have dodged maybe a lot of those forward barrages, and he wants to be able to just have a straight up 1 versus 1. But I feel like Khali is going to have the edge when it comes to a weapon power build, just in terms of the 1 versus 1. We'll have to see how things pan out. Looking up towards the lane, Khali is, you know, doing actually quite well with regards to the farm, even regardless of that death earlier on. And this is perhaps one of the advantages of going this weapon power box. You know, Crystal can struggle a little bit with farm early on. You don't have the damage to just splash through the wave, but weapon can easily get those last hits.
Sometimes we do see Crystal built into Finn compositions though, because you know they're going to be grouped up a little bit. You know that you can put some damage down on that Finn and get the resonance bounces off. Do you think later game perhaps that Vox is going to fall off?
You know, I kind of like it here because I feel like the fights could maybe be quite spread. I mean, Techno is going for weapon, going to be playing around the edges quite a lot of these fights, I would imagine, and Iraqi Zoro can really shut down a Crystal Vox's ability with that Lyra just by jumping in and controlling the fight quite effectively. Makes it harder for Vox to get the positioning he needs to be Crystal, whereas weapon, you can kind of stand your ground and fight a little bit better, and it's less dependent on the positioning. That said, I do think he needs to be a little bit careful in lane, taking a lot of harassment, something that Lyra is very good at.
Well, both the Romans have just been standing in the lane for a long time here. We see Net2Elect using that mustache bush really well, controlling vision around it, being able to step out with the polite company, with the quibble, push Ema King back. Techno's going to take a lot of pain here from Great Khali, but he's going to try and return the favor. Jumps on towards that backline with a Sui strike, and Khali will fall. Ema King's going to get caught out as well. Gangstars roaming around the map superbly well.
Yeah, and I love this from Gangstars. I feel like this is what you need to do against MouseSports. In fact, when Team Secret were playing earlier on today against Mouse, I felt like they needed to be more aggressive in the early game, and Gangstars is actually doing that. They've clearly spent the time to look at the games that have happened since and identified what might be the weak spot here for MouseSports. So I like the fact that they're being very aggressive. I do think MouseSports is mitigating some of the damage quite nicely. I mean, Khali is still farming well, for example, even though he's died twice. But Gangstars are accruing a bit of a gold lead right now, sitting about 1,000 ahead of MouseSports. It's quite an achievement at 5 minutes.
Yeah, they've got a big gold lead already. Iraqi Zoro building up towards his alternating current. Looks like Techno's going to have Solar Blade soon. And they have a level advantage, which is huge as well. Techno puts the death from above down. Astator getting taken very low, will get taken out with the quibble. Techno's going to put some more pain down onto Ema King. And this weapon power, because they're going so early aggressive, because they're trying to counter jungle, it's working out incredibly well for them.
Yeah, a lot of these fights in the jungle end up splitting quite heavily. You know, you can't really position in the same way that you can maybe in the lane, where you can dodge around the minions. So these basic attacks and forward barrages are doing a lot of work from TechnoJJ. He's finding a lot of damage onto MouseSports. Mouse, I'd like to see a little bit more focus on vision. Maybe Emmer King just sticking towards the lane to ensure that Great Khali farms well, but he is going for Iraqi here.
Iraqi's got very low energy, should be able to get away from this one unless Great Khali goes for the dive. Looked for it for a second, but wasn't able to get there. Astator not close enough for that Agent of Wrath, for that buff up. And now with TechnoJJ and Net2Elect just around the corner, they should have to back away. Good stun onto Techno. Polite Company comes down, double man quibble. Techno decides he doesn't want to go any further.
Techno with a really nice death from above there just to stop Khali from being able to reposition. It forced Emmer King and Astator to move up and to threaten the fight. Techno able to just back away off of that one. Breaking point first for Great Khali here. You know, I do think that this build, considering that they've already lost the early game so heavily, does make a certain amount of sense. You just want to get to the point where later in the game you maybe have skipped an item which would only be good earlier on. So I like the fact that he's gone directly for that. Astator now picking up his broken myth, his alternating current as well, which is obviously a massive power spike for him. Should help out a lot in these next couple of fights. But Techno, he's got his power spike, so's Iraqi, and with the Sour Blade, good early.
On Carly gets brought in by the Bright Bulwark and taken down. Net Toilette securing the kill for his team. That forced accord was on point.
Yeah, Net Toilette doing an excellent job of applying the pressure you need to as a Finn as soon as you get the forced accord. Obviously, Kali does not have a reflex block yet. There's no Crucible out of Emmer King, so you're pretty likely going to be able to get those down so long as you aim well. Goldmine going to be the next port of call for Gangstars, but Mouse thinking about contesting a little bit. Aster moving in.
Emmer King has Blast Tremor as well. He's going to look to see if he can get something across the wall here. Not going to be able to chase him. There's the Blast Tremor. He
steals it. Wow.
Emmer King getting his team back in the game. Only 100 gold the difference now, not 10,000 as you said earlier, Action Jackson. That is a great Blast Tremor. He knows they don't want to be fighting soon anyway, so they don't care about the cooldown. They can get some vision, try and control that mustache bush. Something actually Gangstars have done superbly well is the vision control game around these bushes in lane.
Yeah, I have to admit that steal was huge for MouseSports because they were falling behind quite a big amount, but that gold has allowed for Great Kali to pick up a little bit more. Acitor, he's got 1,500 in the bank. There's a few different directions he could go here. I'm actually wondering which one he is going to go for next because a Broken Myth just for more damage could be very useful, but I think you have to be afraid of Techno JJ just crushing you. I'd kind of like him to pick up a bit of armor in the next couple of minutes just to help out in these exchanges. He gets hooked in.
The cord onto Great Kali. The Bright Bulwark comes down. No escape from Techno JJ. Gangstars living up to their names with gank after gank after gank.
Yeah, Great Kali is 0 for 4 right now. This is not a great start to the game for MouseSports, but they are still in it. Acitor.
Good quibble onto Acitor as well. Death from above will force him back towards his turret, but Techno is very happy to dive that for now. 8-0 on Gangstars over MouseSports.
Techno JJ is playing insanely well right now. He's constantly pressuring MouseSports. He's mechanically using Surrey Strike forward barrage to get in the right positions and deal the damage that he needs to. And Iraqi might even find Emmer King. Oh, that was very close. Iraqi, I thought maybe would just try and walk around the edge of that wall there and maybe get one more hit. But Great Kali should be enough of a deterrent here, I would imagine.
Well, when you've got a mech as good as Sky, you have to be mechanically proficient, and that's exactly what Techno JJ is showing us today. Let's have a talk about these builds, because we touched really on MouseSports. Let's have a look at Gangstars. You've got the Solar Blade first on Techno JJ, exactly what we expect really coming out from the Sky. It's alternating current into Heavy Prism, probably towards that Broken Myth for Iraqi Zoro, and then we're going to see a Crucible come out from Net Toilette.
Crucible's obviously a must-buy here for Emmer King and Net Toilette, I would argue, because both the Blast Tremor and the Forced Accord are great tools at locking down an entire team, especially, I think, for the side of Gangstars. MouseSports, you need to have that Crucible because Great Kali wants to be constantly repositioning with Sonic Zoom. Acitor wants to be getting the heals off whenever he can. If that is interrupted at all, it could be very bad. We do have a fight kicking off.
Mouse have run straight into Net Toilette here. The death from above is beautifully placed on top of the quibble. Wait for it, comes out from Great Kali, trying to take down the Finn. Now Iraqi Zoro the target, but he'll survive for ages. Emmer King, last man standing for MouseSports, and it's a game of cat and Mouse are losing once again. Triple kill for the Sky. It's an ace for Gangstars.
Very nice fight by Gangstars. I feel like if MouseSports had just been a little bit more patient, maybe waited another minute or two to pick that kind of an engagement, it could have actually gone quite well. I mean, Kali did a huge amount of damage, but he's only got one tier 3 offensive item. He doesn't have enough to finish the job. So Gangstars, they capitalized, obviously. They're going to keep snowballing here. MouseSports really need to be careful about falling too far behind and bleeding out. Acitor, he's working towards the Broken Myth. Once he picks that up, I do feel like he's going to be, at least for the time being, the bigger damage threat than Kali. So I'd like to see the focus in these fights directed towards him from Gangstars. MouseSports on the flip side need to work on keeping him alive. You can see Gangstars moving up though. They don't want to buy any time for MouseSports. They do not want them to come back into this game.
This is something Gangstars have done incredibly well throughout this entire game. They win fight after fight, but they never rest on their laurels. They're very willing to push up again, try and deny vision, trying to take away those jungle camps, and even if they don't get it, they force Mouse onto the back foot, playing defensive and not knowing where Gangstars are going to be.
All right, so you can see Gangstars moving up here, looking for the Forced Accord, but they're not going to find it. Good Crucible out of Emmer King. It's important to have those reactions down pat if you want to avoid a very bad fight right now. That said, look at the poke damage.
Death from above's going to come down as well. Forward barrage from Techno onto Acitor, who has to just retreat away with the boots. He can't stay and defend his turret. Techno doing great work, played so superbly well thus far in this game. Positioning on point, those forward barrages have been hitting the mark every single time.
They really have, and the scary thing that you have to realize right now is that Techno Techno JJ doesn't even have his second big item here. Once he has a breaking point, these fights are going to be disgusting.
Carly is going to get quibbled, but he will get away for now. Can Mouse turn the fight around? Rakizor is taking those turret shots, but will be able to retreat. Blast Tremor very late there as Gangstars were able to get away. Emo King's going to put the Storm Guard down once again, uses Merciless Pursuit to escape, but the forward barrage keeps him in range. Death from above, he dodges it, Gift of Fire comes out as well, and Asita will keep him alive for now.
Beautiful save from Asiter. Keep in mind right now that Gangstars haven't shopped in a while. Kali just came back with the Tyrant's monocle, so if they go for a fight literally right now, they might be able to do something. The problem is that forward barrage just hit in a big way onto Kali, stopped him from really getting into the position he needed to be in.
Well, that's because Kali has no armor yet. Asita has no armor yet. The only armor on the side of MouseSports is sitting on Emo King, and he wasn't there for that fight. Already had to back away. As you said earlier, Action Jackson, we want to see armor coming out on Asita. We want to see it on Kali. You need to be able to survive through Techno JJ to actually get your damage down.
Yeah, it's a really big problem right now, and it's only going to get worse because Techno just picked up a breaking point. These fights have actually been lasting fairly long, so there's going to be a lot of stacks on him, and the Gift of Fire can only do so much, right? Like, you need to have some inherent defense just in case Asiter has to focus on something else or be in a different position and can't cover your back. Now, Gangstars, obviously the aggression has slowed down a little bit. You know, they're not able to keep pushing in like they were earlier because they have to go much deeper onto the map, but I think the key thing that I want to point out from Gangstars is that they're not doing as good a job as I would like in terms of vision. MouseSports is actually the one with lots of scout traps on their side of the jungle, even though they've been forced back 2 turrets deep. Gangstars, I think, need to try and get on that a little bit more.
There's a couple of scout traps around for Gangstars. They need to push up that scout trap line, try and deny it away from MouseSports, something they did well in the early game, but have struggled a little bit for in the mid-game portion, and now we're going to see them taking away that gold mine, looking to see perhaps if they want to set up for that Kraken in about a minute's time.
All right, King just picked up an Atlas Pauldron. That could be quite useful against Techno JJ and Iraqi Zoro because they both get a decent amount out of the attack speed. But on the flip side, Iraqi now has an Eve of Harvest. So considering the range that he can abuse and the fact that Principal Arcanum does actually give you a bit of lifesteal from an Eve on your second attack, it can actually be really difficult to shut him down. King wants to, though, with that
keeps
stun.
Trying to get onto Iraqi Zoro, but Asita will be locked up with the death from above. Just about escaping. Net Toilet with the fourth accord brings in Asita. They need a fountain and they need it now, and they get it. The burst comes out from Asita.
It lands!
Already they've taken 1 kill, though, and Asita will fall as well. Only Emo King left alive. Gankstars Cerberus, their name means 3-headed dog, where they're the 3-headed cat as they eat up Mouse eSports.
Oh, man. Gangstars, that was a really nice fight from them. They did a great job of pressuring Kali away from Asiter so that he wasn't able to do enough by himself. Let's actually take a look at this one because King kicks things off with the stun, but Asiter gets chunked out very badly on the flip side, then gets forced to cord it in. He's got to go panic mode right now. Reflex block, verse. All of these things instead of using Gift of Fire on Kali, for example, to keep him in the fight. And Techno doing a great job of hunting down targets. Gangstars, they can't end off of that push, but at 14-0 right now and a huge gold lead, they're looking pretty unstoppable.
It's all about this Kraken fight now. That's what MouseSports need to try and fight around. They have to try and push for it, have to try and see if they can perhaps get another Blast Tremor steal, or they can get a good verse off. The problem there is, you know, Great Kali was miles away from the fight. He went for Techno JJ, and that Sky just has too much mobility for someone like a Vox to chase him down.
So Great Kali actually decided to build an Aegis here, and I'm not sure I agree with that. I feel like armor would have been more valuable. Just keeping a basic reflex block could have been fine. King does get a nice Crucible there. I feel like the big damage is coming out of Techno right now. Iraqi was busy dealing with Asiter last time. Here comes another fight, though.
Death from above has split Great Kali away from this fight. They're going to get onto Asiter. There's the force cord. It's going to do so much damage. Founded wasn't able to heal him up, and now Great Kali's trying to fight B3. No chance. He cannot do it. King takes the Arcane Passage to the wrong direction, and he'll get taken out as well. This has to be game for Gankstars Cerberus. They take it 17-0 without even losing a turret.
Look, MouseSports is a great late game team, but Gangstars said you might be great in the late game. We don't care. We're going to take you down in the early game, and they did a perfect job of that. Pressure from minute 1. Kali was 0-4 right at the start of this game, practically. He was farming well. In fact, he's only 13 behind Iraqi Zoro as we close things out, but that's not really enough. Weapon Vox, you got to remember as well, spikes a little bit earlier in the game than Crystal, so he should have been able to fight more, just could not do it.
Well, speaking of Crystal, that is the Vayne Crystal going down for Gankstars Cerberus. They'll take this decider match 1-0 thus far in the best of 3. MouseSports really not performing to the level they would have wanted to in that early game.